We have some breaking news. The Toronto Blue Jays have made a massive move surrounding one of their top prospects. And this move not only has huge implications going forward, but there's been some new reports that have dropped that reveal that this move is a lot more interesting than fans initially think. We're going to break down exactly why, discuss these new reports, as well as a few other updates, folks. But before we get into it all, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, you guys have been an absolute beast with the support, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys again for your continued support over here. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a bit of a bombshell report just dropped from Keegan Matheson revealing that, yes, Trey Yesavage is going to be promoted to AAA. Just got promoted, rather. Not going to be. He just got promoted to AAA Buffalo, which is his fourth level in 2025 after opening the year in Single A. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge move for a variety of reasons. But let's just start with the basics here. You can see here from Keegan Matheson. He's a Jays number 2 prospect, promoting him to AAA Buffalo. He obviously started the year in Single A, then went up to High A, Double A, and now AAA. He has a combined 3.01 earned run average with a ridiculous 15 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he'll be waiting on the doorstep if the club needs him. That last sentence is what really changes everything here, because some new reports have come out. John Schneider a few days ago said something surrounding this that a lot of people missed, that I'm going to dive into in a minute here later on in this video. But folks, he's now promoted to AAA, which means that he is on the doorstep of a big league appearance, and I would not be surprised whatsoever if he makes an appearance with a big league club, whether that's in the bullpen or the starting rotation. And obviously, they decided to keep him at the trade deadline. And part of that is probably because they think he can make an impact this year with the big league club, probably out of the bullpen. But folks, the Jays are in the middle of a pennant race here. They're 4 games up on the AL East. They're going to be making the playoffs in all likelihood. 98% chance according to FanGraphs. 74% chance, I believe it is, to win the AL East according to FanGraphs. Might be 78. Whatever it is. Let me know down below the exact number, 76, 78. However, what we do know is that the Jays have a crucial stretch of play, coming up. And once rosters expand in September, there's a real world here where if he does really well in AAA, they can convince themselves to give their top prospect a chance. And you can see 21 hours ago from Sports Illustrated, before the move of him getting promoted to AAA was, revealed, are the Blue Jays prepping for top prospect Trey Yesavage for an MLB role this season? The Toronto Blue Jays did something with top prospect Trey Yesavage that raised some eyebrows earlier in this week. And this is something that, a lot of fans aren't talking about. And with the Jays, 77% chance, whatever it is, to make to win the AL East, they're positioning themselves for a deep run here. But this is the critical part, and a lot of people miss this. After the trade deadline, Blue Jays manager John Schneider talked to reporters about the future, and Mitch Bannon of The Athletic said that Schneider mentioned 2 pitchers as depth options this season, and Yesavage's name came up. So did that of left-hander Alek Manoah. And something to note here, Dan Shulman also said that within this scrum, when they asked John Schneider about the impact players, no one mentioned Trey Yesavage. John Schneider went out of his way to say and bring up Trey Yesavage's name. And this was a few days ago, or maybe a week ago, when this initially came up, and people started thinking about it, talking about it, but no one really discussed it. And then for this to happen about a week later is massive. And I think that this goes to show the train of thought that Ross Atkins has right now, which is A, they want to obviously go all in, but B, they kept Trey Yesavage to the deadline to probably use him this year. Now, something to keep in mind, Trey Yesavage is a starter. With Bieber, along with potential returns of Manoah and Francis, Toronto would seem to be overflowing in that department, but Schneider didn't mention a role, just depth, and it's what the organization did with Yesavage on Friday, which was a couple days ago, that was intriguing. In Friday's game against Reading, Yesavage didn't start. He came out of the bullpen in the 3rd inning. In his first professional relief appearance, he went 5 innings, allowing 4 hits. Struck out 9, by the way. So you put 2 and 2 together here, you can really see what's happening. A week ago after the deadline, John Schneider mentions out of nowhere kind of Trey Yesavage's name as a player who could make an impact this season. A few days later, he is used for the first time out of the bullpen in the minor leagues on Friday. 2 days later, 3 days later, whatever it is, the Jays promote him to AAA, which is obviously the level right below the big leagues, which means that he is now 1 level away. Like, his next step up is the major league team. What does that mean? You can probably put 2 and 2 together here. They're bracing themselves for a huge move beyond just the AAA call-up, and that's what the big conversation here is, because for him to come out as a relief appearance for the first time ever, I think they could see him, in the bullpen as a guy who can just throw absolute gas and just strike out a ton of players to help them down the stretch with maybe potential bullpen fatigue. And they have a really deep bullpen now, but, you don't get many opportunities to win the division. You don't get many opportunities to fight for a pennant race. We know they did it in 2015. They were fighting in 2016. And then there was years. I mean, this is the first year where they're actually in first in the AL East this late in the season. since 2015, 2016 days, and they were at least competing there. It doesn't happen very often, and when you have a top prospect who is dominating the levels, and yes, he had a little bit of a rough start there at AA for a while, but he has the stuff to get out of these lower leagues and divisions. 15 Ks per 9 is absolutely ludicrous. And again, you can see here he worked out of the bullpen for the first time as a pro. He struck out 9 with 21 whiffs. The big thing now is to keep an eye out on is how he does next outing, which will probably be out of the bullpen if I had to assume. And they're preparing him this year for the bullpen role, and then next year into probably obviously being a starter, because you do not want to handicap a guy like Trey Yesavage. He's one of the best prospects in baseball. He's the Jays' number 2 ranked prospect behind Alek Manoah, and obviously is a top 100 prospect, in the entire world. But it makes things very intriguing. And if they don't have faith in Alek Manoah, if they, maybe somebody gets hurt, Max Scherzer, you can never really fully rely on his health, even though he's feeling great. How Shane Bieber does. They already have an abundance of starters. If you have a guy like Trey Yesavage who can be a long man out of the bullpen to maybe replace, I don't really know who you replace right now, maybe Tommy Nance, something like that, which, Tommy Nance has been fantastic. They're probably preparing themselves for the playoffs, though, and if they can find a way to get him in a playoff, get him on the playoff roster and things like that, it would be very interesting. Is it possible this was a beta test? Of course, his relief appearance Friday on Toronto's part to see if he could handle a bulk relief role in the majors. Is that his potential path to a call up to the majors when rosters expand on August 1st? Would that be enough to put Yesavage in the postseason roster? Those are all interesting questions that can only be answered by the Jays and what they do next at the top pitching prospect when he pitches again next week with New Hampshire. Folks, this was yesterday, but he is not pitching with New Hampshire. His next, pitching stint, I guess, will be with Triple-A Buffalo with the Buffalo Bison. So, very, very interesting. And we're going to have multiple videos covering this. I actually had a video plan on doing it on this week, but the fact that they, they promoted him, made that video, this one here it's just wild. Let me know down below, do you want to see them take a shot at him in the bullpen, where he kind of factors in? I think I don't know if they're fully going to do it, but everything is kind of pointing to this. And if they could go out and maybe have him in a bulk relief role, someone who can dominate, maybe piggyback off of, in a playoff series, getting ahead of myself a little bit, but, I'm super high on Trey Yesavage, piggyback off an Eric Lauer start, a Max Scherzer start, even a Chris Bassett start on the road when he struggles, it'll be interesting. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. A couple other things here. Alek Manoah, he had an absolute moonshot yesterday as well. He's the number 44 ranked prospect in all of baseball. He is now tied for 7th among teenagers in the minor leagues this season with 13 home runs. The prospect system's good. They decided to keep their top 2 prospects in Alek Manoah and Trey Yesavage. They got some great players back at the deadline without having to give up many of the assets, and it's going to be interesting to see what they can do next season. An interesting note from Nene Takes here as well, a guy who's super into prospects. He says that the aggressive promotion track regarding Yesavage, just to circle back here, tells me that Yesavage is likely going to be in the hunt for a rotation spot next spring. So a lot of things happening, folks, and obviously it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens beyond this, because you look at his stats, Trey Yesavage that is, he's done very, very well, especially with the Ks per 9. It's going to be interesting to see how he factors into this rotation. Cheers.